So these PVC pipe gaiters are really cool. You stick the pipe in here, and then you squeeze it, and it cuts a little bit, and then it ratchets, and then squeeze it, cut a little bit, and so on and so forth. It just makes cutting a lot easier. So I'm just gonna cut that. So there's a little bit of water obviously from the line. It's not under pressure because the valve is closed, but there's some water here that's accumulated in this line, and then this line going this way. So it's just gonna leak out, but I'm just gonna clean this up with a paper towel. Just to make sure I have a clean area for the glue to grab onto. And the cement is wet or dry, so I'm not gonna worry about it. Just gonna go ahead and cap it off. You want to make sure you use a lot of this stuff, because if you seal it and there's a little leak, you can't just put a little bit more of that glue on there. You basically have to cut the pipe and re-glue it, because this thing's under 80 to 100 pounds of pressure. Like putting a little bit of double glue on there to kind of cap off a leak is not going to do much, so just be mindful of that. Get a lot of goop on the pipe, on the cap, and then you want to put it on and then twist to kind of squeeze out all the air that can potentially be there. So get it on there and then twist it on. Alright, so these guys are all capped off. Next thing to tackle is this thing. So except for this pipe, because this is the drain for condensation from the air conditioner. But anyway, so if whoever built your house has planned for it well, there will be a separate valve that shuts off the water to these valves that control the sprinklers. So the side that supplies the water, which is these three pipes that are farther away from me, this one, and that one, those are constantly under pressure, and they're sourcing the water from that pipe that runs somewhere down here and that way. And then the reason that the sprinklers don't have any water coming out of them currently is because this valve is controlling the flow this way. So if this thing is off, there will be no water coming into here and into your sprinklers. And this is on from our control panel in the garage. But anyway, I need to basically shut off the water to shut the water supply to the sprinklers. Hopefully I don't have to shut it off at the main valve to the whole house. So lucky for me, the first three valves that control the front of the house are here, and there's a valve here, it looks like, that controls the flow of water, or the water supply, into the front sprinkler set, and then the rear sprinkler set. The rear sprinkler set is what I'm worried about currently, because that's what I'm working on. So this is the valve that shuts off the water, so I turned it, this is in the off position. When the red part is vertical, it means it's allowing water to flow. However, you cycle through, so this is our control panel, so I went to run. I went to manual mode, and I ran the station that I know is, well, the 4, 5, 6 are the stations that are powered to run the rear. I turned it on, and then I heard no water coming out, so that means that that valve, the red valve, basically solved my issue. So now that that is in the off position, I know the sprinklers are off because at the control panel I turned them off, and the valve that supplies the water through that pipe into here is going to have no water supply. This thing you can definitely see is leaking. This thing I think was leaking also. This thing was leaking. This guy looks like it's been leaking. So there's a little bit of water that's been pulling right here. So my plan is to make 4 cuts. 1 cut here, 1 cut here, 1 cut here, and a cut over there, and basically replace this whole thing. I mean replicate it, but with new parts. So new glue, new pipes, new elbows. Per your code, depending on where you are, I think the valve is supposed to be about 6 inches above the highest sprinkler anywhere on the lawn. So I think I'll just replicate this height because I think this is about right. So I'm just gonna get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of these PVC pipes. They're about 2 feet each. I'm gonna get 6 of those ends on there glued on. So it's a little bit of work, and then the wiring is not actually pretty simple. Since this is a solenoid, it doesn't really matter which of the wires you hook up to, the common ground wire or the actual wire that is controlled from the electrical controller. So if you can see, I know it's messy here, I didn't do this, but anyway, this guy that I'm holding in my hand has 3 black wires going into it and 1 white wire. The white wire is actually from this loom that runs through the crawl space under the house to the main box, and that's basically the common ground wire. And then the other colors, this one looks white on the end, but it's actually orange, so this one actually controls this sprinkler valve. Quick tip, if you go to Home Depot to get these guys, this is just PVC rated for 480 psi, but I don't think these lines see more than maybe 100. But anyway, they have these pre-cut, and they're about $2 each. They come in 2-foot lengths, so $2 each, remember, right? And then there's this guy, which is 10 feet, which is $3. So I obviously went for this guy at $3 versus buying 6 of these at $2 each. Not huge savings, but it really adds up. Every project is like, hey, while I'm in there, let me replace this, that, and the other thing, and it really starts adding up. So I have the means to cut it with a tool or a Dremel or a saw, so I don't see why not. Anyway, these are the little connectors I was talking about. So the pipe's going to be going in there, kind of like it is right there, and then it threads in to the end of the sprinklers. It's a converter basically of a non-threaded pipe, female end, and a threaded. And on these threads I will actually use some Teflon tape. I'm not going to glue it. There's no need to, but make sure that you use quite a bit of tape so it doesn't leak, because the problem with all the PVC stuff is you can't just like, hey, I'm just going to break this glue and pull that thing out and replace that little piece. No, you basically have to figure out like where and how to cut it so you can replace the whole big piece, sometimes having to construct the whole thing, right? And partially why you can see those guys are spaced apart so far is in case that joint starts leaking, you have some room to cut it and then put a new elbow on it or new piece on it. Because if they were right next to each other, if that thing starts leaking, you have to replace a whole bigger section of it. So PVC glue is tricky like that. All of these electrical connectors that are twisted like this, you can't really untwist them, so I just have to strip them. Wire strippers. I'm just going to cut them all. And then at Ace Hardware, I just got another kit of these. They're called wiregard. There are 25 of these. They range from different gauges of wires, different thickness basically. Starting to cut the pipe right there. That's the first cut, which is a supply line, so it has to drain from these 3 columns that are under constant pressure to sprinkler valves, and then whatever is in that line and however far it goes. There's going to be a little bit of a puddle here.